Welcome to MakerFX Wood Shop. This is our SawStop table saw. It's a pretty awesome tool that was donated a couple of years ago, and we like to take care of it so that all of our members can benefit from using it. As you can see, it's as clean as it can possibly be right now. We don't want to leave any sawdust or any, stuff on it when we're done like that. We want to make sure we put our stuff away. And the reason why we like it being clean and free of debris is so our wood just slides across it like butter. So cast iron, when it gets kind of grungy and rusty, will cause extra friction, and which can cause you to push harder, and you might slip and hit the blade. But with it being a SawStop, you're a little bit safer, but we still want to have this to be as smooth and clean as possible. First thing you'll notice is the blade guard. Notice how the blade, you cannot see the blade, it's below the table. That's how we want to leave the saw when we're done with it for the day. The other thing is our fence. We want to make sure we park it over here in the black, not on the cast iron. That's a no-go. This will cause rust to form on here because of the MDF. It sucks moisture out of the air and gets rust. Moving on, we do have this dust collection set up here, and that plugs into the guard here. You can remove this and push it out of the way if you remove this guard. We'll detail that shortly. Again, you can see the blade is below the table. If we want to bring up the blade, you just have to come to the front of the saw. Turn this one to the left to unlock it, and then we'll go clockwise to bring her up. And you can lock it down. Now you can see we got the blade exposed. Normally that's going to be too much blade, so I'm going to bring it down. You only want to have enough blade to where the gullets of the saw blade are just above your material. So that's perfect for this piece that I would potentially be cutting. Then you just kind of boop, and then you cut. And when you're done for the day, just come back down here again, counterclockwise, and drop that blade down. Even though there's a guard covering it, it's still a good safety practice. All right. So sometimes you come across an instance where you don't want the blade to cut all the way through your material. Maybe you're doing like a dado or something and you don't want to cut all the way through. We can remove this very easily. You're going to unplug the vacuum hose from it. You can push this out of the way. I'm going to leave it like this for now. Lift this up right here, lift up, give it a gentle little tug. And then the fun part is make sure the saw is off. Like switch the button, paddle in, power switch off. As you can see, the saw is off. No power to the saw. So you'll take your hand, you'll reach in here to the lever, kind of push it up. It's a silver lever, you'll see it. And then lift this out, and we're gonna come back in a second and put another riving knife in there. You'll grab the black riving knife. See the black one? It's right down here. You'll grab the black one. The silver one's for a thin kerf blade, which we are not using currently, but it lives here. Black one. Black one goes in, lever goes down, you're good to go. And you put your blade throat plate back in there. And you want to make sure that this is not going to catch. And then you're good to go. Bring your blade up, and there you go. Never ever operate this saw without a riving knife or the guard. That is not safe, that's not cool, don't do it. When we're done, we will remove this riving knife and put the other guard back. So I'm going to take that out, put it back in its home. and put this bad boy back in here. Sometimes these anti-kickback pawls will come undone and want to fight you, so make sure they're kind of plugged away in their home before you put this all in here. And then we'll take this, and we're good to go. And since I'm done for the day, I'm going to drop the saw blade below the table. There you go. Starting the saw. So the saw is plugged into power, and unlike other table saws, most table saws you just pull that and you rock and roll. But now with a SawStop, we can actually power on the saw. And we power it on for the first time, it's going to do a system self-check. You'll see these lights start blinking. Bloop. So once that light goes out, we can then engage the blade with the paddle. Takes about 30 seconds usually. So now we're ready to go. So we got everything set up, then you just go. The blinking means the blade is spinning, so don't put your hand near the blade while it's blinking, otherwise you can trip the brake. Trip the brake, you ruin the blade. If you come to use the saw and it powers up and there's still lights going, right over here on the side of the saw, you'll see a bunch of trouble codes you can use. If you can't resolve the trouble code, post up in the woodworking channel. Someone from the woodshop point of contacts group will work with you on that. This key is used to bypass the safety system. Do not use this unless you've been cleared by the woodworking point of contact. So don't engage the key. Don't lose the key. We're done for the day. We clean the saw up. It's all clean, nice and pretty, put away. When you're done, you know, that's gonna be pushed in, but you need to make sure you turn that off because that's how the saw gets its main power. So on, since we just turned it off, it's gonna be fine for systems check. Off, no lights. So make sure you're wearing safety glasses, either bring your own or we have earmuffs and some safety glasses over there on the wall. When you're done with them, just get a Clorox wipe and wipe them off for the next person. These were like $3 at Harbor Freight. Safety glasses are like $2 at Harbor Freight. So go spend like $5 on a decent set. You'll thank yourself in the future. And then people always ask me, what can I cut on the SawStop? Clearly wood, like MDF, pine, spruce, whatever dimensional lumber you have. The only things you cannot cut are pressure treated woods and anything that's ferrous, like iron, aluminum. Yeah, don't cut aluminum or iron. Especially, I have, at my personal SawStop, I have cut aluminum composite, but then again, that's my saw at home, not here. If you need to cut something that's aluminum composite, get with the point of contact, we'll work with you, we'll get it cut up. But again, nothing that can cause the brake to trip. Nothing ferrous, nothing pressure treated, nothing very wet. We do have a moisture meter, so if you want to test out how that's like 7% moisture, I think it's reading. Yeah, it's hitting 7%. So this is dry enough. But if you had wood that was like out in your yard sopping wet, you don't cut it on a saw. So the reason why we don't want to cut wet wood is the wet wood will trigger the brake, which will destroy the blade and the brake, which is, both those together is like $190 to replace. So if you're unsure if your wood is dry enough, check it with a meter, but most wood you buy from like Lowe's, Home Depot, Rockler is gonna be pretty dry. We like to keep this little guy over here just as a safety item. Over here, we keep this thing on here that holds some push sticks, some push blocks, some push things. This can come off and you can move it out of the way. But push sticks are great. So push block. So these are called push sticks or chicken sticks, depends on where you're from, but you never really want to have your hands near the spinning blade of death. Even though it is a SawStop, it still can hurt you. Like, it's not a complete, you know, not get hurt kind of tool. So I'm going to have the blade up just as demonstration for right now, but you want to make sure the guard's always in use. So generally the rule of thumb is, what I did is, if I'm doing a cut that has my hand going anywhere into this red area, the guard, you want to use a push block or push stick, something to where you have control over it and your hands aren't going to be anywhere near that blade. Of course, if you're doing like a really narrow cut where the guard's in the way, you'll want to use a push stick to kind of guide everything through. So I'm not going to do it now because the saw is off, but you want to have, you know, your fingers out of the way because you only get one set of hands. This isn't Star Wars. For more education, more help on how to cut wood, someone can help you with that in the woodworking channel. We're not going to do it in this video, but just don't put your hands close to the blade, man. So when you're using a saw, I'd mentioned dust collection. We have a dust collection hose. You can kind of see it snaking up over here to this dust collector. Before you don't have to run this the entire time you're cutting, but before you do your cut, just flip it on, and then when you're done, flip it off. If the bag is full, you can see it's not very full, but if the bag does get full, please be a cool person and empty it into the dumpster out back. It also can get clogged up in here sometimes, so let the woodworking channel know.